Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution.
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 You want a revolution?
You say you want a revolution?
Revolution. The revolution.
It's going on right now.
Welcome to The Revolution, the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we ask today's most successful entrepreneurs to share the tools and strategies they use to build relationships and connections to grow their revenue. Now, your host for The Revolution, John Corcoran.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the host of this show. I'm also a recovering political hack and a recovering lawyer, having spent years working in politics, including as a speechwriter with stints working in the Clinton White House and for a California governor. And, after spending many years practicing law in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, and about 10 years ago, in 2010, I discovered the medium of podcasting, and I've been doing it ever since, and I love it. Over 10 years of hosting this show, I've had the privilege to talk with top CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs, companies and organizations ranging from YPO to EO, Activation Blizzard, LendingTree, OpenTable, many more. I'm also the co-founder of Rise 25, where we help B2B businesses with the strategy and production and execution they need to create a podcast and do content marketing that produces tremendous ROI for them. So first, before we get into this, I want to give a shout out to Corey Levenberg of 42 Inc. and Dave Richmond of Comcate. Go check them out, 42-inc.com. is the URL, and Comcate, COMCATE.com. They are mentors for me through the EO San Francisco program, and they introduced me to today's guest, who I'll tell you about in a moment. I'm really excited about. His name is Daniel Nell. He's also been a mentor for me, and he's an entrepreneur who really is inspired by leading people, continuously educating himself, and also new technologies that help the way that we work. And he has got about 6 different companies that he's started, but we're going to start with the story of the first company he started, which actually failed, and how that influences the way that he organizes his businesses today and runs his businesses today. So we're going to get into that. And he's also very active in Entrepreneurs Organization, which I'm active in as well through their Accelerator program. But first, before we get into that, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25 Media. Rise 25 helps B2B businesses to get clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships with done-for-you podcasts and content marketing. You're listening to this right now, so we know you like podcasts at least a little bit. So if you ever thought about doing a podcast, I say it's one of the best things I've ever done. And we specialize in helping B2B businesses with a high client lifetime value. So to learn more, go to rise25media.com, or you can email us at support@rise25media.com. All right, Daniel, I'm super excited to interview you here today. This has been a long time coming because we talked about this for a long time.
Yeah,
and
I'm
glad we finally got it scheduled. And Daniel lives in Cape Town, South Africa, near the beach there. I've seen pictures of your home. It's a beautiful place to live. And you've got interesting challenges running your businesses out of South Africa. We're going to talk about that, the differences between running a business in, the first world in the United States versus in a developing country like South Africa. But let's flash back to 1990. You're graduating with your MBA, and you decide to start your first business, which unfortunately didn't work out. It failed, and that really has influenced your career and the way that you run your businesses today. So let's start with that.
Yes. Thank you, John. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. Yeah, so it's an interesting story for me. So in 1990, I was, I think, 28. And the biggest dream for me at that time was, I would like to have, being the founder of a business, I would like to experience that. At that time, also had the dream of doing an MBA. Everybody's 28, you want to have a real smart career. And at this time, we did an interesting project at the end of our studies about starting a business for printed circuit boards. And we did a good dissertation and a story and a thesis about that. And the professor said, well, why don't you, this is a good idea, why don't we start a business? And eventually 5 of us started this business. We wrote the business plan, because this is what they tell you in MBA. You have to write the business plan, show the numbers, the forecast, or whatever. And then we went into a funding business, and they gave us the money. And 6 months down the line, we had to close the business because we knew nothing about really running a business. And the reason for that was that one of the key people in the business, got taken out. His father got sick. and he had to leave the business, and that brought the business to grinding standstill. And we didn't know how to handle that. So eventually we had to liquidate the business. So the biggest lesson for me out of that was that for 4 years of my life, I had to go every month with my pay slip, what I earn every month, to the company or the people that we borrowed the money from. And then I had to ask them, please, will you be lenient to me for this month? I can only pay so much. Don't take my car or my house. So that was a very interesting part for me. And that sort of crafted my psychology, how I think about business. That actually became my philosophy, how I think about how I do things right now.
Did you become more cautious as a result of that? Because you said it took you 4 years to repay it. So if I'm doing my math correctly, then you worked in the corporate world for another 3 more years after that, and you end up starting a new company 3 years later.
Yes, exactly. So you, so it mentally really struck you, because now you got to think completely different. And when I started in my new business again, that was really focused very much that I only started on my own. So then I created this whole mantra about how I will start businesses, and about that I will start it on my own. I get it going through bootstrapping, self-funded business, and then I bring in partners when it's running properly. And at that time, the reason why we also failed a bit, because you're not equal in terms of who does funding and how your assets get accounted for. So the people with most assets, they're normally the one that gets hit hardest. And so you really have to make sure when you go into something like this that you know what you're in for. And that crafted the way forward for me, where I'm right now.
So you have 6 businesses now. You have a little bit shy of 100 people working for you. Are you saying that when you start a new business now, you still start it yourself?
Yeah. So I would look at that almost like a space shuttle. So my big business that I started many years ago, that is sort of the space shuttle for me. It's in orbit already. So the biggest part of any business is when you leave Earth. And I just use it as a metaphoric kind of example. It's the gravity. That's the most difficult part to get a business going. So that's why I use the existing business as my space shuttle, and I launch new businesses from that. So I've done all the grunt work. So what I do when I get new business going, I give them clients, I give them some of the funding and the infrastructure out of the business, and I give leaders in my company the opportunity to get big ownership pieces in business so that they flourish. So this is how we created the additional 6 businesses that spun out of this. And out of this now, 2 of the people that were with me has become accelerators, and 1 person is business that we started through my space shuttle story has actually now become an EO member.
Wow. And would you say, so you call it your main business, One Nebula, right? That's correct. Yeah. The original business, which you started in 1990, technology innovation services firm. You enable high performance technology for large enterprises. And would you say that it makes it easier once you have that, larger company? It makes it easier. You've got talent you can bring in. You've got maybe other clients that you can bring into the new business. So is it easier to start other businesses? Or as you just pointed out a second ago, you have to be careful because you have assets. So does it make it, do you still find that you have kind of the same challenges or distractions having to run multiple businesses when you start a new business?
Yes, you still have distractions and you still have challenges, but the fundamental piece about this is really to make sure that your foundation is solid. The foundation will be about your core values, how you run your finances, how you hire people. You have to make sure that all of that are stable, and that your revenue that's filling up that dam is consistent. And you have to have a business model that generates automatic revenue. So it's so important for you to have a business model that makes money for you while you sleep. So it have to be a subscription or annuity kind of based business. Through the long period of time I started the company just with selling hours, consulting hours. Eventually now to convert it to a full automated subscription kind of business where we are right now, which are completely so much more scalable. And you have to have something that makes money while you sleep.
Got it. Okay. And now you're it's funny listening to you talk about it. I can hear you, talking about some of the same things that you teach when you are an EO Accelerator program trainer. So first of all,
Yeah.
for those who don't know what the EO Accelerator program is, explain what it is and your involvement.
So EO has got this can't say it's an incubation program, but it's sort of, they give back to the companies that's between $250,000 and they're not $1 million yet, $1 million. And we use the philosophy and the teachings of Vern Harney, Scaling Up. And we put this program together and we use entrepreneurs of EO that becomes trainers in taking them through the scaling up process. And why I like this, for me is it's really inspiring for me to listen to myself and share experiences of what I've learned, and through this process, it actually helps me again to become better in what I do. So this has been quite a successful part for EO. They have a success rate of at least 16% of this, whereas the normal companies that actually scale to $1 million is about 4% in the US.
And why, you devote, I don't know how many hours of your time per year to EO Accelerator and I think other things as well. At one point, I know you were doing multiple different cities. Before COVID hit, you were flying around the globe multiple times a month. Why do you do it? Why do you volunteer such a substantial amount of your time? And do you ever feel like that if you devoted that time to your business, that it would help the business additionally? Or do you feel like, your involvement through Accelerator, your time that you spend on that actually brings back more to the business?
Yeah, that's a very good question, John. So yes, my philosophy about that. So before, so the more you do, the more you can do. So one of the things for me was that the more I volunteered to do things, it forced me really to invest in my leadership team. Your business cannot grow without strong leaders. Now, when does a leader really grow? Is when you let him grow. And when does that happen? You have to let him go. You need to trust him to do things and let them fail and pick them up. But if you're always available consistently there, they're never going to learn. So for me, the part that I'm involved with EO and Accelerator taught me I've got to let go some areas but have to have a different way of leading. That sort of forced me to do that, which were great. The other part for me about getting involved in throughout the world with other accelerator groups was the learnings of that. And for me, the biggest part of my higher purpose is about challenging other people really to accelerate to get to their full potential. And I've plowed that back into my business. And that's why the leadership team in my company has developed so much that it just freed me up to do these things. And that inspired them to do more because they see what I can achieve. So that gave them more meaning. So it's like a chain reaction that this has created for us in scalability in terms of the people side in the business.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like that, you spent so much time away that you kind of lose touch with the business, or how do you remain in touch when you're traveling the way that you have, or that when you're away from the business? How do you remain in touch and on top of the business?
Yeah, so that's the rhythm that we put in place, the checks and balances. So that is part of your fundamentals, what you put in place in your business. So one of the key parts for us is really to have a strong, what we call corporate support, that runs your finances, that runs your HR, that runs all your compliance side. So you have checks and balances in place so that you know the heartbeat of the business, and you know the data that comes out of your business that tells you if it's healthy or not healthy. So it helps you as a leader to sort of predict the future or see around corners before it happens. So we have a rhythm of checking into the business. Now, COVID has been, I would say, it was tough for us in some areas, but it's been fantastic for us So this has just expedited our rhythm in the business now. So we would have checked in once or twice a week. Now our whole company now checks in every day from 7 till 8. Everybody aligned. And I have
The whole company is
whole company,
like on a Zoom call every day for an hour.
Not all of, but all the various teams are.
Oh, various teams. Okay.
All the various teams in the company check in between 7 and 8 every day.
Okay.
And then on a Wednesday, 9 till 10, I have a town hall meeting every week, where I used to have it only 3 months in every 3 months. Now it's like we just Zoom all the time, speed up the process.
Wow. And what do you do during the weekly town hall meeting?
So very much focus on talking about the company values, talk about learnings, talk about good news. We have to celebrate good news, and show progress. Mm-hmm. So progress trumps perfection. Mm-hmm. So that's what we always like to say. We've moved 2 inches closer. We've moved 1 millimeter there. And when there's bad news, we tell it. And one of the key parts of our values is saying, listen, we won't hide our stuff. If things go bad with us, we'll tell you. And when we lost a client, we told people, listen, there's going to be no increases happening for a period of time. And everybody was okay with it, because everybody knows the story every week, how we communicated it.
Yeah. And how do you, one thing that companies struggle with is sharing the successes and getting the team to understand the costs and the expenses associated with the business, so they don't just, so your team doesn't just see dollar signs like, oh, we got all these new clients, can I have a raise, that sort of thing. So as a business owner, how do you balance those two? How do you make sure that everyone in the company sees that just because you get some big new windfall, new client, it doesn't mean that it's all profit and we're going to spread all the money out?
Yeah. So our numbers are open in the business. The only part that we don't share with the client or with our staff is salaries. But everything in the business, our profit, our cash flow, I share it. I say, guys, this is the cash. Our focus is really to have the company to sustain itself for 12 months. So this is one of the big parts of our company. We're still a self-funded business after 24 years. We don't have an overdraft. We don't have debt. And we've done a great formula how we do this. And we share it with the people and say, this is what it is. This is what we're going to lose. This is the potential impact of this. And then when we have to take a cut, the directors and the leaders have to go first. So when COVID happened, I took a 20% cut. But now, after everything is done, and the directors that took with me, so we switch it back on. 1st of August, we say, right, we're back to normal. We switch on. Then everybody's the same. So in this process, we haven't had anybody really coming to say, oh, you got a new client, I want more, or whatever. So because it's transparent, everybody's on the same page with the wins and the lose, and we're transparent about what is real. So that is the story that Jack Welch always shared about. When you share something, tell it how it is. Don't hide, sugarcoat, say it's bad or good. The real story.
Now, I want to ask you about, you're a big partner for Microsoft. And one of the trainings, one of the lessons in scaling up and in the Eo Accelerator program is to diversify your risk. Are you ever fearful that having all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, by being partnered with one company, that's putting a lot of risk on you? Like, what if that company goes away? Not that Microsoft is going to go away, but what if they change the rules of the road? If that's your partnership and you have no other options, does that limit you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our partnership is not that we're totally dependent on them. So we own all our IP. So one of the key decisions we made is that we are a technology business and that we built all our software, but it's built on the Microsoft stack. So, and it runs in Microsoft Azure. If that's something happens to that, we will convert it into an on-prem solution, or we move the server to somewhere else. But the fundamental piece from why we are an independent software vendor, so we own the IP, so we're not a reseller of Microsoft products, but we've got our own products that Microsoft puts out to their partners. So we've created a lot of great IP. So we built 3 software as a service platforms. One is called OneView, another one is called Search Identity, and another one's called StackTides. And all of that is sort of accelerated out of innovation of learning from one product. And then we said, but what of this becomes reusable? And that sort of gave birth to some new products out of this, which is great acceleration. Very similar to the way that we actually launch kind of businesses as well.
You've mentioned it a few times, but I want to circle back to COVID because it's been such a significant impact on the business world. We're recording this in beginning of October 2020. And so just to give people kind of a time frame, we certainly are not in the clear yet. Yeah. It sounds like in terms of the impact on your business, it had a big impact initially. After a few months, it sounds like you kind of recovered from it. Do you feel like you were prepared going into it, or now having gone through it, do you feel like you would do things differently, or you're making decisions now to better prepare you for something like this in the future?
Yeah, thank you, John, for that. So I think we pretty strong at this point in time. So we when it happened, the lockdown happened. Immediately we looked at scenarios. We forecast that we're going to lose within 60 days 10% of our revenue, and then after another 90 days another 15%. So we've sort of in our mind says this could happen, and we checked at the trends of the companies that we service that might happen. So the first 30 days nothing happened in terms of we continued, but everything was a complete lockdown. And then the first client came and said, "Oh, we need to talk about this." And fortunately for us is that we built a lot of our services are automated, so that we had strong gross profit margins, so we could take a knock out of that. But the beauty for us, because we're technology driven, it was very easy for us immediately to work remotely. So the big part for us had happened out of COVID, because we had a plan for about 18 months to have offices elsewhere in the world. That COVID has fast forward our expansion internationally to 4 months. So because now everybody can work remote, but we don't need to have physical offices and the rhythms that we've got. So this has been a good part for us. So what my key executive now that's running the SaaS business is immigrating in 10 days to the Netherlands, where he's going to run our company from.
Wow. So that it did have a big impact, it sounds like, for the business. Yeah. What do you, we're running a little short on time. What are you excited about heading into the new year, which is kind of right around the corner? Hopefully we'll get past this global pandemic and businesses will start to recover. What are you excited about?
So I'm excited about, we started an interesting project in end of 2019, something called the Future Workforce. And really start looking forward and predicting how will our workforce change now with the digitization. How does the skills need to change? How would you? And all of a sudden, this has now just come true. So I'm very excited about all the work that we've done in that, and how we've now cemented and created this great storyline of meaningful work in this new world of selecting talent. So our future workforce will probably not just based in little South Africa, little in a southern point here in Cape Town. It will be anybody in the world can work with us now, the way we're thinking and the way we put things together. So that's exciting for me. The challenge for that will be always to have to maintain your culture. Now we're going to move into something called a virtual culture. And I'm excited about finding out and see how we can overcome that and make that still very strong.
So kind of a related question to that, but if someone's listening to this and they're thinking about starting a business these days, in the context of a global pandemic, things changing, and I'll also just submit that, some of the biggest and most impressive global brands that exist today were started in a downturn. So what would you say to someone who's thinking about starting a business today?
I would say, don't be afraid. Just do it, but go and think about what does somebody need during this period of time. There's always a need for something. There's always a bottleneck somewhere that you can solve. So interesting, I just looked at the story about the potato chip, the potato crisp that we all love and we're all addicted to, that was sort of founded in 1853 or in that area, per accident. Somebody had the normal fat chip or French fry and somebody was unhappy and took it back to the chef. And he decided, I'm just going to chop it finer and deep fry it for you. And they came back and they said, oh. So that is sort of the pivot, something that you didn't want becomes an inflection point that just happens. So you just have to be, your mind have to be open about that and to say, how can you make a change in a world by solving something that is out there and the opportunities are there.
That's great. This has been great. I want to wrap things up with the question I always ask, Daniel, which is, let's pretend we're at an awards banquet, much like the Oscars or the Emmys, and you are receiving an award for lifetime achievement for everything you've done up until this point. And what we all want to know is, who do you thank? Who are the mentors? Who are the friends? Who are the business partners? Who are the coaches? Who are the people that you would acknowledge in your remarks?
Yeah, thank you for that question, John, as well. So the big part for me will be my parents are still alive, they 86 and 84. So for me will be very much acknowledging them for their role that they played in my life. My uncle's been one of my inspirations for being entrepreneur. Then my team through the years. So it's very difficult just to single out one person, but for me it was the team that followed me and the people that's been part of that. They've been great success for us leading up to this. But now of the team for me, right where we got right now, the Nebula team, the 48 team, the cyber team, the Zebic team, the telecoms team, all of them really amazing. And then for me, the opportunity that I got through Eo. Eo, the opportunity of going to the Leadership Academy that in 2015 made a big change for me about how I think. And I met people like Warren Rustin and a lot of those people, and then also Accelerator. The other big part for me is just too many people to probably remember, but for me that there's actually so much just for me is about having the opportunity of just being who I am and just learn and give back.
That's great. One Nebula, 48 Software, 48 Cyber, Nebula Telecoms, N48X Holdings. Am I missing any of them?
Yeah, and Zebic Human Capital.
Zebic Human Capital. Okay. All right. Where can people go to learn more about you or connect with you or learn more about your different companies?
So I can just Google me on LinkedIn, Daniel Nell. They'll find me there, or www.11nebula.com. That's our global brand. So they're most welcome just to make contact for us with that. So really great, John, to spend time with you.
Absolutely, Daniel. And, one of the great things about the EO community is meeting such great people like you who spend their time giving back to the greater community. So thank you for everything that you do, and pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast with John Corcoran. Find out more at smartbusinessrevolution.com. And while you're there, sign up for our email list and join the revolution.
Revolution.
And be listening for the next episode of the Smart Business Revolution podcast.